Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Oh my God, Bill.
Episode number 150, Peter. We made it.
And here we are again in front of the mics, live.
I've been touting for some time that there is no other podcast that I know of. And if you know of one, please send me a support ticket that has 150 shows on creative financing that is with just you and I. No advertising, no guest speakers. We've had a few guest speakers. In fact, we're going to have one today.
Yeah.
Okay? But I'm talking about, not like bringing on, somebody that's done 100 deals in 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
None of those kind of guys.
Mm-hmm.
No advertising, just you and I talking about creative real estate. When we first started, did you think that we would have all these things to talk about?
I thought you wrote out eventually and we'd go on vacation.
Is that what you thought?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, nice knowing you. See you later.
So today's show, episode number 150, is called Sneaky, Undeniable Psychology Hidden from Investors. What do you think about that?
See, sneaky,
undeniable psychology hidden from investors.
Okay.
You and I both know that if you don't have your head straight in this game, the game will eat you up.
Yeah.
You got to be certain about what you're doing and when you're doing it. And a lot of people have trouble with that.
We just went to a 3-day real estate seminar.
Yeah.
And I think it was half the bloody time was on mindset. And here's another quote from Theodore Roosevelt. Right. Here's one from Abraham Lincoln. Right. Here's one from Buddha. I mean, geez, just yipes. Yeah. I'm thinking, come on, I worked on that already. Let me get to the rest of the stuff.
Right. Where are the numbers?
I've spent years on my head. Where's the next? But I know people don't. They get an idea, let's do that, and their head's not ready.
So at least you don't have to worry about it. At least you didn't say to me, I spent years on my ass because your head is up it. Right?
Bill, why'd you even think that?
Easy.
Hey!
I've been watching too much
70 show.
70 show.
Yeah. With
Red's putting his foot up your ass.
Oh, God.
All right, here we go. After reading many, many, many books, and you know this because you're in my house and you see the walls lined with them.
Mm-hmm. I think you're going to be a hoarder one day if you keep it up.
I was thinking the other day, I stopped because I corrected myself. I was actually going out to my car, and I don't know why it popped in my head, but it popped in my head because I was like, I wonder if there's a package from Amazon out there.
You're like an addict, Bill.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that.
You getting the sweats?
No, I was thinking that. I was thinking, you know what? I actually think I am an addict. I'm an information addict, and I'm like too far.
This next book will save me.
So it's kind of like being an alcoholic, and I know I'm not making little of being an alcoholic at all, but it's kind of like the first step in AAA is to admit you're an alcoholic. So I had to admit to myself the other day when I got in the car and lit my cigar that I'm an information addict.
Take it easy there, buddy.
Yuck. So that was not the psychology I thought we were going to talk about today.
Well, there's a certain correct balance, shall we say. And here it is today.
Here you go. After reading many, let's get back to the podcast. Many books, I discovered a secret playbook that unlocks some of the most powerful mind weapons and successful principles to conquer any dream that you may have. And I kid you not. This guy that we're going to interview today is an up-and-coming author. He is amazing, but his materials are really good, okay? So even though this sounds like it's a bit impossible, without doubt, this podcast interview with the famous author Ben Settle, okay, who we're talking about, will explain and demonstrate how to be the most influential person in any room because you have money, fame, power, respect, influence, and knowledge denied by most of those people around you. I mean, this is kind of like one of those underground type authors that's kind of like poking his head out a little bit. Okay, it's like you find this guy because you went looking for him, or you don't just stumble upon him. He's not on Facebook. Matter of fact, he calls it Flake Book. Okay? It's absolutely amazing. Okay? This logical discussion that we're going to have today will cover things like only bow to the altar of your mission, how to nix neediness, why you pay yourself first. A lot of people talk about it, but they don't talk about why, right? Exactly why you should shove people off their pedestals, how to ignore the sheep, and so much more. This is one episode that could possibly reshape your mind so much you'll find your inner superhero once and for all and start using your very own powers. And this is not good copywriting. This is not words that I've just put together like get your attention. I personally believe that this gentleman, Ben Settle, has done this for me. And he has many books. If you just go to Amazon and type in Ben Settle, Settle, or go to his website, bensettle.com, bensettle.com, his materials are there. He is not one of those guys that's going to try to sell you a $6,000 course and to start the podcast. Before I even get going, this is not. You may not think this is a real estate podcast when we first start, but what we're going to talk about today is so connected to real estate. It's like the undercurrents of the tide. You know, it's like what's controlling the whole thing, but you can't see it. Right? If you can't control some of these emotions and some of these mental image pictures and some of these things that we're talking about in your own head, you're just like, you have the undercurrent. You have something else controlling you and you don't even know it.
Wow.
You're like hypnotized and you don't even know.
So you're not even talking about the buyer getting, the seller getting to their heads. Just, this is your own head.
Right.
Boy.
Right. And for sure, if you don't get this stuff straight, for sure, and I know this because I constantly work on this stuff and I know you do too. If you don't get this stuff straight, you're not hitting your full potential. You're just not hitting your full potential. Right. So the inside secrets, and I mean inside because honestly, I mean, unless I told you who he was, you may not know who he is. He's changing that because he's got a bunch of books. He's an amazing author. And he's just a all around great guy. He's just a great guy. I love reading his stuff. He's got a very, very clever imagination and how he puts stuff together. The name of the book is Persuasion Secrets of the World's Most Charismatic and Influential Villains. Just how he puts it in the villain arena, you know, like comic books and Batman and all that kind of stuff. And it's just amazing how he illustrates it. And we're going to talk about that when we get Ben on the phone, which will be here in a couple minutes, right? So this weird but effective way that we talk about this, you'll start to notice fundamentally that there's simple but straightforward words and wisdom that change your thoughts. I mean, it changes the way you think. And the way Ben puts it, how he uses the concepts and how he developed them or actually created them, his stories is just amazing. I've read the book about 6 or 8 times. I want to read it 10 times because that's something he talks about, is make sure that you fully understand it, read it 10 times. It so relates to real estate without relating to real estate. I mean, again, the mindset and, you know, and like, for example, the one thing that we talked about is neediness, you know, having neediness. I you know, the chapter in the book is called Annihilate Your Neediness, right? I have a coaching client. We were talking about this. He's been with me for probably 6 months now and he hasn't gotten a deal and he's like getting frustrated. And I actually read to him on the coaching call the other night, the chapter on neediness, because that's exactly what it is. Yeah. It leaks through and your seller feels it. It's like a dog, you know, like when they say a dog can feel if you're in fear and they like growl at you more because they know they're dominant now. Yeah. Right. It's the same thing with your sellers. And that's all that's the matter with this guy. He's got everything else going on, but his neediness, it just leaks through all of his words and his body language and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's just so simple. And Ben has done an amazing job of just articulating it and making it fun because he talks about villains and stuff like that. Let me just give you a punchline here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That we're going to talk about. The last chapter of his book is called "Be the Joker,"
Yeah.
and he's actually talking about the Joker and Batman.
Yeah.
Right? And the way he positions what the Joker does. And he's not talking about putting red lipstick and white makeup on. He's just talking about the mindset of the Joker and how positive it is. Right? And how he's like turned those characteristics around and learned from them. And that's what I like about Ben is he's really good at taking a bad situation and looking at it and learning from it and turning it into something good. You know what I mean? He's really, really good at that. So let me catch up with my notes here.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to expose a book like we're going to talk about today is pretty huge because I know that I talk a lot about, other people's books that I read. Like we were talking about Jay Abraham not too long ago, and I talk about Ron LeGrand and Dave Lindahl's another one, on apartments. There's plenty of information that I've captured from other people, and I'm not reinventing a lot of it. I mean, we have you and I, or mostly me, have our own things like the 7-deal strategy and the loan to value ratio and all that kind of stuff is stuff that I've created. I've added to the collection of materials. Ben is the first one that I actually ever reached out to and asked if I can do an interview with him, where I'm going to actually expose his book. So I thought I should take, an exclusive look at what he has to offer. So out of all the people that I've read, Ben has, I guess, impressed me the most, where I've reached out to him and actually asked him to join us on a podcast. In fact, it's pretty exciting because once we get into the interview with him, he actually offers to do more. So I think we'll have, I hope to have more than one set, have more segues with him, right? So real quick, and then we're going to get Ben on the phone, and then when we get all done, we're going to go over some of the things that I feel about Ben and probably you after we do the interview. So I found Ben because when I first started wanting to train people because of you, we decided that we had so many people from our meetups asking, do you have more materials? We had to cleverly create those materials as we went because it was such a demand.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
3 years ago.
The first time they asked, the guy cried.
Yeah.
I forget that. Like, can you just show us? Just show us how to do it. Just tell us. Right. Yeah. He cried.
Yeah.
There's tears in it.
And which is the reason why I'm not like some national guru, because I'm a face-to-face guy. My coaching is hand-to-hand combat. It's like if I can't, and I want it that way. I don't want it any other way, right? Because I make my money with real estate. At this particular point, I make enough money to call, for expenses, pay a couple staff members and, our software and stuff like that, and I'm happy. My wife says I'm nuts. You should be making more money off that stuff. And I'm like, whatever. Right? I have other places to make money. I think there's bigger money to be made. And there's other bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, so I had been to, a couple of years ago, I had been to an OMG, one-man gang. And these were SEO guys, search engine optimization guys. And at the time, Em and I were in a business of doing search engine optimization in my marketing company. And I had paid, I think, $5,000 or $10,000 to be in the seminar. I think it was $10,000 to be in the seminar. And it was 5 days. And I met a guy that had made a living. He made between $45,000 and $60,000 a month selling a newsletter to stock market people. So he had an email system that worked. Actually, maybe I got that wrong. I'm gonna re-say what he did. So he had 45 to 60,000 email addresses and made around $40 to $45,000 a month off of his emails. In other words, his newsletter.
I got it.
So when it was time for you and I to start like doing email stuff and trying to start finding more clients so we can make it viable, I called him on the phone because I had met him at this OMG like a year or two before that, and said to him, I want to do some email stuff, and I know that you do it, and how do you get your new emails, and how do you do this, and how do you do that? And he's like, well, I can explain it to you. He says, but I'm going to give you the name of a guy, and you should just go buy all his shit. I'm like, okay, who's that? And he said, Ben Sita. So I went and hunted him down because I had no idea how to find him, and I got on his, I didn't even get on his email list. I found that he has a physical newsletter that he charges every month. And I just got on a newsletter. Well, the first thing he did is he sent me this book, this 400-page or 500-page book on how to write emails. And I absorbed it over a week's time. I like absorbed that book, and it was like, oh my God, this is the most amazing stuff I've ever read about emails. And I started doing it. And to this day, I find it hard to not write an email without his materials. So as I'm writing emails on it, every month I get this newsletter, and as soon as it comes, I like sit down and read it. You know what I mean? He has other products. I bought almost every product he has, or I think I have. He comes out with new books. I buy all of them. Well, in one of my newsletters, this book, Persuasion Secrets, comes out, and I read it. And once I read this book, I was like, I'm an avid disciple, because I just think that it's amazing what he's doing. It's amazing that he is young, and that he studied so much, and that he's able to bring this information to us. Okay, so you were going to say something?
Well, it just looks like he focused on like a really good niche and got really good at that kind of one thing, not a small thing, a big thing, but like really got good at that one thing.
Right. And it's interesting because now I go backwards, and I kind of like had to get on his email list and all that kind of stuff. And he's a picky guy because if you don't open his emails, or if you don't take some of his offers, he kicks you off the list. I mean, he's a no nonsense guy, and I like that about him. So with that said, let's get Ben on the phone. Obviously this was a recorded call. So if it sounds different when you start listening to it, it's because we had to do the call on the phone. And once we get on the phone, you hear background noise and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different sound because we had to switch our technical setup on when we did the call.
So we're not getting a Grammy for sound reproduction engineering?
This is not all about being in Hollywood, no.
Okay.
So let's get Ben on the phone and get started. All right, Peter. So here we have Mr. Ben Settle.
Bill, you're excited.
Yes.
Yes, because you like his stuff. Ben, he likes your stuff a lot. I hear your name a lot.
And I appreciate the patronage. For the cause.
Yeah, so many of my tribe know that I send out emails every single day. I'm always talking about stories about what Peter and I are doing. All the kinds of I think the best one was the dumpster rat. When we had somebody dumping shit in our dumpster. That was the best one, I think. But Ben, you've been a tremendous influence for me. I love all your materials. Your main, I'd like to just maybe have you take a couple minutes and just talk about what you do. I know your main thing is teaching people how to, how to make email work for them and make their business increase and all that. But you've also come out with a couple books, which is what I'd like to talk about today. But why don't you just give us a brief description of what you do and how you do it, if you wouldn't mind, so they know what you do.
Okay, so I mean, in the real estate world, I don't know how familiar everyone is with copywriting, which is just writing basically sales pitches in print or in video, whatever, audio. That's what I primarily started off doing. Now I specialize in email, and that's what I use, and you've been learning from me probably primarily. And other than that, I'm switching my business from just email to more of a publishing/media company. So I'm kind of all over the map right now. And until as you know, I'm a little bit handicapped right now with high-speed internet. so things have been slow. But it's okay. You know, it's totally okay. There's been a lot of good things that have come up unexpectedly, but that's the thing. I think of myself more as a publisher and media publisher than email guy. But mostly I teach email copywriting.
Right. So, I know for a fact that my listeners are very familiar with copywriting from the simple fact that there's people like Ron LeGrand and who are some of the other ones?
Robert Kiyosaki.
Dean Graziano. They all use direct mail, and we have received those letters to get us to come to a seminar usually. Right. And Ben is, I mean, I've read his letters. He is an absolute genius with those. I mean, I always thought that Dan Kennedy was an awesome writer until I started reading some of your stuff. And we won't tell Dan, but I think you kick his ass, buddy. You do a great job. But you know, your forte is doing research and knowing who your client is and who you talk to. And I talk about all the time with real estate to make sure your message and your market and your message match. And you're like a genius with that. So.
Well, it's just all, you know, the thing is, it's just a matter of doing the work.
Yeah, totally. So if anybody's curious, I mean, just so we get the email thing out of the way, so it's email players club, right? What is the actual email? So if they want to go check you out for like how to do emails and how to do copywriting or any of that kind of stuff, any of your materials, can you just give some? We'll just get that out of the way now. So if they want to go check you out, they can go check you out, and then we'll get into the book.
The best thing to do is just go to bensettle.com and give me your email address, and you'll get the first issue of my email players newsletter as a PDF. And then you can, from there, you'll see exactly what it is.
Perfect. So it's BENSETTLE.com.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's how I started with you. I started with the newsletter, and then you sent me that book, and I devoured that thing like in a weekend. I'm like, oh my God, this is like, it's kind of like, to me, it's like underground stuff, because it's not like you're like, you know, I mean, I hope I don't hurt your feelings, but you're not like a mainstream where everybody's heard of you yet, you know. And I found you, and it was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And then from it, you reference a lot of other marketers. I mean, you've done a lot of, I could tell you that you like to read, and you've done a lot of research from, you know, guys all the way back into the early 1900s, and you use a lot of their materials. It's just amazing.
Yeah. So. I mean, I give them all the credit. I mean, I'm just a student like anybody, and I just study all these guys. I study principles that have left the test of time.
Right.
That's the key.
Right. Yeah, and you communicate them well too. So, all right. So the name of the book that I want to talk about, which is a very motivational book. It's the first book I read of yours. I don't know if it's the first one you printed, but it's called Persuasion Secrets of the World's Most Charismatic and Influential Villains. And I just got to read the chapters, you know, because there's 10 I guess, what would you call them? They're 10 points or principles. What would you call them?
Yeah, I would call them 10 principles. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and when I read these, in fact, I've read this book. One of the things you talk about in a lot of your writings is to read something like 10 times. So I'm like on time number 6 on your book, and every time I read it, I get more out of it than the last time. It's just freaking amazing. So, the first one is: a villain without a mission is like a man without testicles. I love that one, Peter.
Hey Ben, don't hold back.
So number 2 is annihilate your neediness. Number 3 is selfishly pay yourself first. Number 4 is secure your screw you fund. And we're actually talking about that around the office, about how I'm making a screw you fund. So that's pretty cool. 5 is ruthlessly knock people off their pedestals. Number 6 is execute your inner nice guy with extreme prejudice. Number 7 is stake and behead the time vampires. Oh, that's a good one too. Number 8 is villains never lose sleep over the opinion of sheep. Number 9 is patience, a supervillain's deadliest weapon. And number 10 is be the Joker. Peter liked that one.
Be the Joker.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, so let's just take it from the top, Ben. So, I mean, obviously you can explain it a lot better than I can. So when you say a villain without a mission is like a man without testicles, can you elaborate on that?
Can you tell us more about that, Ben?
I'll tell you. I'll just say this: the whole book. Okay, and this will give some context to everything. The whole book was originally articles I wrote for a site called thepropervillains.com, which went out of commission a few years back.
Okay.
But the idea is just basically infotainment, which is just merging information with entertainment, and using this villainous persona to teach basic principles that I believe have just don't get taught anymore. I think all of our grandparents knew this stuff, but over the years in America, at least, people have gotten kind of, I don't know how else to put it, deballed, by the media and everything. Right. And so now we're taught things by the media, by the teachers, by the educational system, by everything, which just is the opposite of what you need to be successful. So the whole book is just that. It's just a way of teaching these male self-improvement from a perspective that has a little more entertainment factor to it. So, and by the way, you mentioned people like Robert Kiyosaki, for example. Rich Dad, Poor Dad doesn't teach you anything new. It's just taught in a way that's very fun and interesting to read, and that's pretty much the same concept. So anyway, hopefully that gives some context. But yeah, okay, so a mission is everything. Like if you don't have something to focus on, if you don't have something that transcends you, something that you can't stop thinking about and working toward, you automatically have a lot of things going against you. These days, people are taught to be following someone else's mission. We're taught to go contribute. I mean, think about this. Earl Nightingale was great at teaching this stuff. He's like, the average guy, this is back in the 70s or 60s when he taught it, but it's still today. The average guy is basically taught from birth to be like everyone else, to follow everyone else, even if they don't have a capacity for leadership. Well, everyone's whole worldview is to be liked now, and not, that's it, even Facebook. Like me on Facebook. No, the idea is not to be liked, it's to be respected. Now, if you have something you're working on, a mission in life, now what that mission is totally unique to, there's no checklist on how to figure this out, but let's say it's to build a real estate, empire of some kind, okay, just to keep it more in line with what you guys teach and do. And you're focused on that, and that's your entire focus. You put that on a pedestal, not other people, not other people's agenda. Everything changes completely. Your entire perspective on things changes. Instead of you needing to keep yourself accountable, you're keeping people accountable to you. Instead of pedestalizing a person or whatever, like people do, they pedestalize their favorite, entertainers and celebrities. They might pedestalize a girl, a woman, something like that. Well, if someone's on a pedestal, they can only look down on you. So this switches the whole thing around. That shifted my life. When you said that, I was like, I had to read it 3 times. I'm like, oh my God, it's so true. They look down on you. Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing. But if you have a mission, like something that you sweat, bleed over every day, you come home exhausted working on it, and that's all you really think about and focus on, all these other things that keep people held back, neediness, which is huge, neediness and time management, all this stuff, it all falls into place because now you have something to focus on. But most people don't. Most people are just wandering through life, serving everyone else's agenda instead of their own. So that's basically what that means. If you don't have a mission, and I'll tell you what, a lot of people will say, well, I don't really have a mission. So what do? Well, make it your mission to find your mission. That's like the first key. Yeah. I mean, it's okay. We all start somewhere.
And Pete, I want Pete to elaborate on this in a minute because he's what we call the rookie, because it's our podcast is called Flipping Houses for Rookies, and he's the rookie. But I think that what he's saying here, Pete, is that how many people come in and they're like, you were saying it earlier on the podcast, the podcast we did prior to this, people just come in and say, I want to make money and real estate, and that's like supposedly their mission. But how many facets of real estate are there?
No, there's a lot, and you can't make money the focus. Of course, you need money, but just to make money, just go get a lousy job and work your head off. But it's a different approach when you have a mission like real estate, helping somebody who can't sell his house, that you feel you're actually helping, and get a guy into a house that he can't buy because he doesn't have the financing, but you help him get in, you're helping somebody. You're actually doing something useful. So when you go to sleep at night, you feel like you've accomplished something, not just I made a couple of bucks ripping somebody off or something like that. There's no gain in that.
Right. So when Ben is saying have a mission, it's like, I feel like I want to elaborate on that a little bit by just saying, okay, so my mission is to, like you said, we do terms deals, right? We do renovations and all that kind of stuff, but that's a by the way type of thing. So when we're talking to our sellers on the phone and we're qualifying them, knowing our mission has everything to do with, do they qualify or don't they qualify? Because we know we can do that type of a deal or we can't do that type of a deal.
Right, and it's often something that they have no clue of, never heard of it, and at first don't even trust it because it's too new, until you explain it and they see how good it works. So you're enlightening people while helping them. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword in a way. It's not that easy because they're not trained on it, and we have to do that as well. But it's a benefit that people aren't aware of.
Right. So I think it's important.
I want to give you guys something to think about with this, because I have a good friend. I don't know if you guys know him or not, but I'm surprised. I mean, you guys are in the same world. His name's Trevor Mock, and he has this website called oncarrot.com, and he helps investors, real estate investors. Now,
really?
Yeah, he's great. And I've known this guy for many years, and he lives in this little jerkwater town that I used to live in briefly too, called Roseburg, Oregon. And, like I say, Roseburg is like, it's like the butt crack of the universe. I mean, it's really not. It's full of meth addicts. I mean, I lived there for 2 years. I got robbed. I got out of there. Okay, let's put it that way. Now, here's the reason I bring this up. He has a mission in life, and he's a real estate investor. Okay, that's his thing. In fact, he holds a mastermind once or twice a year, and I'm like the only non-real estate investor that goes. Okay. But he has a mission in life. His mission is to make Roseburg the entrepreneurial tech center of the state. It transcends him. It transcends everything. It's really his, like I've talked to him. This is all he focuses on. And he has built this. I watched him build this company from zero to, I think they did like 5 or 6 million last year. So this is over the course of like 5 years. And it was all about his mission. A mission is like a tailwind. It'll push you. Money is a byproduct of it in most cases. It'll just happen. But it transcends us. It's something bigger than us that we're working toward. And that's why it's like one of those things where you can't really tell someone what their mission is. It could be building a church. You guys ever see that movie Machine Gun Preacher by any chance?
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
Okay, well, if you ever get a chance to watch it, it's a perfect example. He had this mission to save these kids from like being raped and killed over in Africa. So his mission was to help them. So he built churches to raise money to help fund that mission. Wow. And so I hope this gives us some perspective. It goes so far beyond just business goals, and it's something bigger than us. And you know what? Right. People will hear that and say, I don't know. I have no idea. That's okay. This is the first step, is just realizing and thinking about that. It's all right. And you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge.
Well, we talk about that too, that the business and the money isn't really the goal. Like Bill and I are doing this for similar reasons, but people might say independence, help other people. We actually asked a group at our meetup, 20, 40 people, whatever it was that night. So when you have all the money and you're really doing well and you can do whatever you want, what are you going to do? And more than half the people said, I'm going to go help somebody. And we weren't sure that was really the case, because if you really want to help somebody, just go help them right now, poor or rich. But they said it at least. And we were surprised. We thought, big cars, vacations, Bahamas, like which I say. But we were surprised that they had a concept beyond the business and the money for real life. And it was kind of heartwarming.
Yeah.
So we talk about that too, besides what we're doing in the real estate, like, hey, Bill, when we're really rich, what are we going to do then?
Yeah, exactly. So, Ben, I'd like to do something a little bit odd here, because the next one is neediness. And I want to kind of, and I'm going to tell you in a second what I'm thinking here. So So neediness and being on a pedestal is to me kind of the same with what I see happens with my coaching clients, because like our average medium where we are here in Connecticut is like $250,000, right? So I'll get coaching clients that will have like somebody that has, I was talking to one of my coaching clients last night. He's got 2 deals he's working on. One's worth $800,000. The other one's worth $1 million. And the 2 problems I run into them with when they're doing these deals is, number one, neediness. He's like really like got this must have, that he must have this deal. And it shines through just like you talk about. And the other thing is he put that $800,000 owner up on a pedestal, and they like work so much against you. It's like ridiculous, and he doesn't even know he's doing it.
Yeah, neediness is like, I liken it to catfish bait. Have you ever smelled catfish bait?
Yes. It's horrible.
We would literally smear their room with catfish bait, and it's like the worst. So here's the thing. Let's say you have a closet full of just like $1 million worth of clothes and shoes and all this, right? But it's all brand name stuff, brand new, still in the box or the bag or whatever, and you go in there and smear catfish bait on the walls. Those clothes are now repulsive. So no matter how valuable somebody is or something is, it won't matter if you're needy, because neediness will turn like people just viscerally don't respond to neediness. Watch politicians. The needy ones never get elected. They come off as desperate. They are desperate. So, but the neediness is so insidious because it's so everywhere. And in the book, everything. Once you have a mission, you can't be needy. That's the beauty of having a mission, by the way.
Right.
You don't really need. And there's something attractive about a person who doesn't need your deal, right? Or they don't need your vote, or they don't need anything. There's just something about that person. And people don't understand it's because it's non-neediness. Now, the beauty of neediness, or the beauty of getting rid of neediness, is very easy. It's very easy to just get rid of neediness once you understand it. And the first part of that is just to be aware of it and to not need it. And if you start having goals that, and this is the key, if you have goals that you're dependent on the outcome, so like the guy you just mentioned, he's dependent on an outcome. He needs that deal. Yeah. He's already dead in the water. You guys ever watched, I don't know if you guys ever saw this movie. It's kind of an obscure movie. It's called The Tao of Steve. It's about this like Slavish, like really overweight Slavy guy, but who does really well with girls. And he has like this 3-part formula of how he does it. He's trying to teach this other guy in the movie. And the first part of his entire formula is be desireless. Let go of your desire for what you want. It's so simple. And if you just make goals that are outcome independent instead of outcome dependent, it's so much easier. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. Okay, so a few years ago, I woke up on January 1st, 2016, about 34 pounds overweight, right? Like, for me, that's a lot, because I'm not really a big guy to begin with. So I was like, whoa, Ben, what the hell happened last night? And so I got on the climbed on, and then I moved my considerable stomach off the scale at the time, and I said, okay, what am I going to do about it? Well, the last thing you want to do is say, I need to lose 34 pounds by X and such a date, because you cannot really control that. You can't control how much money you're going to make by a certain date either. You can't control specific outcomes. You can't control whether someone's going to do your deal or not. People are going to do what they're going to do. There's so many components and factors and variables outside of your control that creates neediness in and of itself. Is saying, I have to have this deal, or I have to make X number of money by next month. You've automatically made life way harder on yourself because you're putting pressure on yourself, which creates neediness. And if you want to see what really creates neediness, just watch an auction. They're designed to create neediness out of it. That's why people will overpay.
It's true.
So here's the key. So what do? Start making goals that you can control. And by the way, this is in my second book. It's not really talked about much in the first one. But it's in the second one.
It's a great example, too.
Well, I use the example from the book, not the movie, Forrest Gump. I don't know if you guys ever read the book. I had to read it in college, but it's totally different from the movie. And Forrest, lands in New Guinea or something. He crashes in New Guinea on a plane, and he meets up with this tribe of cannibals. And the guy running the tribe is actually like a guy from the West who's like Harvard educated or something. And it turns out that he just wants to play chess with someone. So he teaches Forrest how to play chess, and Forrest is like a natural at chess and keeps winning. But Forrest realizes the second he loses, this guy's going to eat him. Like that. So Forrest has to win. He's going to get eaten. It's actually a very funny book. It's like a laugh out loud book in a lot of cases. But so he has to win. Meanwhile, the cannibal doesn't have to win, and the cannibal's slowly getting better and better and better and better, and Forrest is getting more and more and more needy until he knows he's going to end up getting trapped and beaten. So that's an example of what I'm talking about. So when I woke up that fat then, I didn't say, I need to lose all this weight by whatever. No, I said, okay, what can I control? Well, I can control eating better every day. I can control moving my considerable stomach, taking a walk. I can control that kind of stuff, right? If you make goals,
whether or not you go to the gym today or not, that's something you can control, right?
You can absolutely control every aspect. Or making money is the same thing. So with email, for example, I can't control whether someone's going to open and buy from email. I have no control of it, but I can control whether I show up every day to write an email and try to make myself better every day. I can control getting better at my craft every day. I can control the number of emails I send every day. I can control those things. And if you focus on the things you can control and stop worrying about the stuff you can't control, neediness just goes away automatically because you're inevitably going to win eventually.
And we talk about that quite a bit on our podcast, on the real estate podcast, because all I say is just get in a house and make an offer, because nobody has ever bought a piece of real estate without making an offer. So that's something you can control. That's right. So can I make one offer this week, or can I make 2 offers this week? And what happens is by virtue of having to make the offer, if your marketing's not working, then that means, well, I got to fix the marketing because I got to have people to talk to. And if you're not closing deals, exactly, you can control that, exactly. And if you're not closing deals, that means that once you make the offer and they say yes, something's broken from there to the close. So you can control that too. So that's why Peter and I we have for 3 years, just make offers, because that's how you buy real estate. And even if you suck at it the first time, like you said, you can improve on it. Now you know what to fix. Now you know how to improve. Because of just what you said, because you can control it.
You can control having a better attitude, if nothing else.
Right.
You and I have been back and forthing for over a month about my crappy internet right now, right?
Yep.
We've been back and forth.
Yep.
Like, I'm warning you. Like, I don't know what's now. Like, nothing's working. My computer's falling apart, which we just found out this morning, as you guys have been finding out real time. Like, suddenly, software. Now, all this sucks. I can't really control it right now. I can take steps to figure this out, which I will, but I can have a better attitude about it, which I have. I'm like, well, shit,
Exactly.
how much work I got done in the last month? It's like,
Yeah.
So you can always control your attitude. You can control your thinking. I'll just leave this subject with this, and this is important for everyone to think about. When I got my concealed carry handgun license a couple years ago, the guy who trained me said, he goes, here's the thing you all have to remember. The judge is going to do what they're going to do. The criminal's going to do what they're going to do. The lawyers are going to do what they're going to do. The DA is going to do what he's going to do. Your wife's going to do what she's going to do. Your husband's going to do what he's going to do. Your friends are going to do what they're going to do. Your family's going to do what they're going to do. You're going to do what you're going to do. And that's the whole key. You can only control what you can do. You can't try to figure out what everyone else is going to do. You're going to go crazy. So that's the key.
And when you have that confidence in yourself to know that you've made a decision basically because your mission is good, then it just makes it that much easier. The confidence, it has a lot to do with it.
As long as if you have a good, well-defined mission you're working toward, you're always safe as long as you stay within that and you don't veer off of it. You're safe in your mission. You really are, because you're going toward a certain direction.
So important. All right, good. So what about this selfishly paying yourself first? Now, there's so many people I hear about in our live seminars that say, yeah, but they got some answer. Well, what is that all about? Selfishly paying yourself first.
Well, this is a concept as old as Babylon, right? It's like
yes.
you read The Richest Man in Babylon. This is biblical. It's everything. If there's one thing that everyone agrees on when it comes to like money management, going back thousands of years up till today, it is paying yourself first. Now, when I talk about paying yourself first, I am talking about financially. I really do. And I know it's easier said than done, but any money management person can show you the ins and outs of this. It's not complicated. But more important, I think, than the money is paying yourself first in terms of time. So nobody talks about this part, but time is worth far more than money. Like the government can't print fiat time. Money is limitless, right? There's plenty of money out there. So that's not the hard part, but time. I mean, who's that villain from Star Trek Generations, Sauron? He's like, time is the fire in which we all burn. Like eventually you're going to die. Your time is finite. So it makes no sense to not give that first hour of the day, and preferably the first and last hour, but if nothing else, the first hour of every day to your mission. So if you have to go to a job still, get up an hour early and work on your mission. Give that first most creative part of the day where you're at your best, where you're at your sharpest. You're going to give that to someone else to build their mission? No, I'm not saying to shirk your responsibilities. I'm not saying to not do a good job. You should. But give the best of what you got to your mission, to your family, to whatever your goals are. Don't give it to someone else's. And that could be, if you're depending on what someone's doing, it's not even just occupational. Whatever it is, give yourself that first hour, and you have control. You have far more, because if you don't do that, well, I'll get to it when I get home. No one ever gets to it when they get home. I'm tired. No, you wake up, the first hour belongs to you. Unless the house is on fire, okay? The first hour, I don't care if you have 10 kids, all need your, look, the first hour, you go, if you have to go, and I mean what I'm about to say, I'm very serious about this. If you have to go find some office space for $100 a month or $200 a month, and you have to go do that with no phone, no way anyone, nobody even knows it exists. Go there for an hour in the morning, do what you got to do, and then you can give the best of what's left over to everyone else. And if you do this, the beauty is if you do this, I have found that you do a better job for everyone else too because you don't resent them. So I'll give you an example of this. I started doing these 10-mile walks last year. I love doing it. I do it like 3 or 4 days a week. And I'm a very introverted guy. I got to have alone time. And whenever I have house guests and stuff, I get cranky. I don't want anybody here. I really don't. I hate having house guests. But I found when I had house guests last year, if I got up and did my walk before anyone else got up, I was a much better host. So
really,
it's the same thing. Yeah. I mean, because I had got that time to myself, paid myself first.
Sure. That's interesting. So to kind of relate it to what we, again, back to our podcast, is that we and I didn't connect the dots, Peter, till he was just talking right now. Yeah. Because we talk about the best way for a real estate investor to get started is to do an hour of marketing a day, an hour a day of marketing, and an hour a day of talking to sellers.
That's right.
And if you don't have a seller to talk to, then spend that time doing marketing.
Sure. I'm glad you guys are talking about this because I talk to family members, wife, that they spend hours working for somebody else, and I say, why don't you work for us for a little while? Work on what we want. Just spend that time setting up those things that'll produce those goals that we're looking for. Why put all that time to the other guy and not us?
Well, I think it's extremely, the part that was, I mean, it's all genius, but the part that really hit me like in the forehead is he's right. When you wake up in the morning, that's like your freshest, that's when you're most vibrant. You got your sleep, you got everything you need. And it's like, that's the best time.
If you're a morning person.
No.
I'm a rock and roll guy. I wake up at 9 o'clock
but so
p.m. No, but the point is whenever you're awake, whenever it is, just get some time for yourself. Right, Ben? Make some time for you and your goals.
Yeah, I mean, I say the first hour a day because if you don't, there's a very good chance you won't do it.
That's right.
It's just life. Yeah. Real life happens every day. Most people spend all day reacting to things, and we all do. Well, if you do if there's nothing to react to, that's the best time to do it.
That's exactly.
Yeah, before things happen, before you open up emails and texts and get pissed off at something.
Now, I took what he said. And I used to do my email blast, and I would sit down like on a Sunday or a Monday morning or something, and I would write like the week's worth of email blasts and put them into some autoresponder.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I started reading Ben's stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so when I get at my computer, the first thing I do every morning is I write my email. And he's right, because now I've gotten it down to where I like do it in like 20 minutes. Sometimes it takes me a half an hour for like getting something, like giving something away. I'll need to have some help from Emma with the opt-in page or something like that, like where I'm sending them.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I write out my 250 words or whatever it is. And I noticed that when I started doing that, they were better emails because of exactly what he's saying. It's like I'm fresh and I'm like thinking and it's on my mission. And it's like all of a sudden, it's like my whole tribe has grown and our sales have gone up and everything's gone with it because it's exactly what he says.
Well, I think your emails are more relevant when you do them based on what happened yesterday or what life, instead of sitting down and just writing 5 emails off the top of your head because you're supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you feel better too once you've done that? Like, I got something done today, now I can go and do all the other dumb stuff?
Yeah, because like you said, sometimes we're doing a renovation and I'll leave the house and it'll be, 8, 9 o'clock at night before I get back sometimes. And it's like, I'm not, even if I did write an email, it's not going to be as good as it was first thing in the morning.
You be complaining about the rehab. Those would be like a good dumpster rat
story.
email story.
All right, so that's really good. So the next one on the list, Ben, is after you pay yourself first. Were you done with that, or did you want to add more to it? Should we move on?
No, that's fine because time's getting short anyway, so we can. And by the way, I was just thinking, if you want to do like a sequel to this call later and do the other, it might be easier than trying to rush through the next 6 or in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So let's talk about the Screw You Fund. And then just because the last one is the joke, be the Joker, because it's not really self-explanatory. We'll talk about those two, and then we'll boogie out of here. Okay.
Okay.
So the Screw You Fund.
Yeah, this is something I remember hearing from this copywriter John Carlton many, 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 many years ago when I first got into this. And this goes back to neediness. If you have 6 months to a year's worth of money saved up, suddenly you don't need all these deals and you don't need things to happen. You don't have to rely on the flakiness of other people. It just takes that need out, and it just automatically makes you someone people want to do business with more as a result. A lot of forces work to your back when you don't need something. And this is one of the ways you can get rid of neediness. First start with 30 days, in my opinion. Save up like a month's worth of money. So that if something serious happens, at least you have some time. But then start building up to at least 6 months, if not a year. And I think you'll find that everyone reacts to you differently because you don't need their deal. You don't need what they have. You have control. And
so true.
That's a good thing for everybody.
And the best way to do that, just without getting into a whole thing about it, but the best way to do that is every time you do a deal, you make 20, 30 grand, just peel 5% off and put it in a savings account somewhere in a different bank where you can't see it and just build your Screw You Fund. That's just as simple as that.
Very simple.
Yeah. All right. Be the Joker. What's that?
So the Joker is an amazing creation because he's feared. He's the most feared villain. First of all, he's a regular human. Yet all the superpowered villains and heroes fear him. Okay, it's kind of interesting to think about. He's and there's been all kinds of stuff written about this, but I have my theories on some of this stuff. But the one thing the Joker has, which is what keeps everybody reacting to him, for the most part, and why you can't really ignore him. There's very few people indifferent to the Joker. You might not like him, but no one's like bored by the Joker. Not when he's done right, in any of his incarnations. Yep. Comic books, movies, whatever. Even like the campy 60s Batman show. At least he was still, you couldn't be indifferent to him. So one of the big reasons for this is he has the ability to create impact no matter what he says and what he does. It always has impact. Always. Whether he's telling a story or doing whatever he's going to do, it always has impact every single time. And that keeps him constantly on people's mind, top of mind status. It makes it hard to ignore him, to be indifferent to him.
Or forget him.
Or forget him. And from a purely practical point of view, I don't think anyone should go out bleaching your skin and creating genocide. We don't want to do that. But
though some will.
Well, hopefully not. But you can use that attribute in your marketing, your emails, sales copy, in your day-to-day talking to people. For example, during this call, if I just said, have a mission, and just coldly explained it, it wouldn't have had the impact if I didn't tell you about my friend Trevor and the story about him, or about Sam Childers and the Machine Gun Preacher. It automatically brings depth to things. It's more in line with the way human psychology works. It's like how we like to get information. Storytelling is just one of many ways, but he was great at that. He's always written like that. He has tons of impact, and so that's why you should be the joke.
Bill, he's doing it to us.
Yeah, totally.
Ben, you're playing us.
No, he's not. He's just doing what he believes in. He's got a mission.
I'm listening. I'm definitely listening. Hey, Ben, it's working.
Pete's got notes over here. He's been writing stuff down.
If you're following sound principles, it's not like you're doing anything to someone. You are, but it's not something tactical. It's just a way of living. And the more you embrace the principles in the Villains books, and I have two of them out, and the third one's actually going to come out, be launched in August. You follow these principles, and things just fall right in place. So, in my experience, at least.
Yep. So, just to end off here, so my interpretation of impact for real estate is that so many people don't know about us investors that can help them more than a realtor, right? So, my example of an impact, Peter, is that when we stand in a house and we say to the seller, they say, I might want to go get a realtor, and I'll say to them very casually, oh, okay, well, why would you want to do that? The realtor's going to go look for the buyer, and I'm standing right here.
Yep.
I'm your buyer.
Yep.
That's impact. That's 100% impact.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly
Bill, you have a lot of those.
Yeah.
You have a lot of lines like that, and people don't forget when you say those things.
And if you ask them questions that revolve around their pain that they're not thinking about, how many months can you go without selling this thing? No, really, how long can you go before this becomes a problem and you can't even really keep up with the taxes and the insurance and all that, and you just have this off? How long can you go? How's this gonna sell when the market drops pretty soon? Right. I mean, this happens.
Exactly.
How long can you go? How long can you wait? And it's not like you're manipulating them. You're just asking them. So give them a vision of their problem. That's impact.
Totally. All right, good. So I'll chat with you by email. Maybe we could do another call. Maybe I got a crazy idea, and we don't have to do this, but you can think about it. Maybe we get your buddy, the real estate guy, on the call with us, and three of us could do a call. That'd be fun.
Oh, I'm sure he would love that act. I'm sure he would love that.
I didn't get his name very good.
Yeah.
Trevor.
What was his name? Was
Trevor?
What's the last name?
Mauch, and it's oncarrot.com. And I'm not an affiliate or anything. On carrots,
oncarrot.com.
On carrot?
Yeah, carrot like a carrot a rabbit eats. All right, Ben, thank you so much for being with us. So just before you go, I mean, I know you probably get it on Amazon, stuff like that, but just tell us where they can get the book, and again, where they can get a contact with you if they want to get any of your materials, which I strongly, even if you're not a copywriter, even if you're just looking to get clients for real estate, Ben's stuff is just freaking amazing. You should go check it out because it has helped my business immensely, and it will help. And I don't mean my information marketing business. I'm talking about getting leads of motivated sellers to call me so I can make them offers. It's helped me a lot.
It's villainsbook.com, and that'll take you to the Amazon listing.
Okay, villainsbook.com. And then your website is bensettle.com, right? SETTLE.
Yes.
Good. All right, man, I know you got to go. Thank you so much for being with us. I will shoot you an email and see if we can maybe do something later down the road, and we could do some other stuff on the other books, and maybe get your buddy hooked up, and we could just have a good old time.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. Thanks,
sir.
Ben. Have a good day.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye. Okay, Peter, what'd you think of that?
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Isn't it amazing?
You see, he writes all these books. He's really smart, but he's like a person.
Right.
There's nobody in the world that isn't just a person, no matter how big or small. He's just a good guy, though. I like him.
So I wrote
great advice.
Yeah. As we were talking, I was making some notes about things that I like about him. Right? Me personally.
Yeah.
Right. So, number one is when you apply what he talks about, it works. Because I've been doing it for many months.
Yep.
Right. I also like that it's very practical and easy information to understand. So the application is actually a cinch because it's just kind of like it's common sense.
Yeah, but the way he's explaining it, like the thing on the Joker.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what are you going to learn from the Joker? But he has such an angle on the impact of the character.
How about
the impact he had on
being
people.
on the pedestal? I mean, that was life-changing for me.
I remember a few months back when you said, Jesus, listen to what I figured out today, and you're smoking your cigar, and I'm like, damn it, and you had that whole thing, and you got through that.
The biggest thing is you deal with somebody who's got an $800,000 house, and you put them up on a pedestal, and you think there's somebody special, and they're looking down on you, and you have no control over the deal. Or worse than that, you're looking for money.
Yeah,
you're looking for private money, and you put them on a pedestal because you think they have money. What happens now?
Mm-hmm.
They're looking down on you.
Yeah. They think they're doing you a big favor and you're trying to make them money. It's the other way around.
I like the fact that he's studied a whole lot. I mean, he's definitely very literate, and he's studied a lot, and he's able to credit those people when due. He doesn't try to say it's his material. Mm-hmm. I really like that. I really like that. I got this from the late and great, and the interesting thing about him, which sent me off on a tangent, since I've been studying his materials, is I've gone back, much like I think he's done, and I've studied materials from the early 30s, 20s,
told me that.
30s, and 40s.
Well, how could that apply today? But people is people.
Yeah.
The medium changes, but
you got to realize back then it was a lot harder because it was direct mail. So they had to spend money, nickels and dimes for every envelope to figure out what works. Mm-hmm. So I feel like their lessons are very impactful because of what they had to do to learn them.
Yeah.
So the lessons and the books that were written are much more valuable because of the expense of the lessons. Like sending out, 100,000 letters.
They can't afford to screw that up.
Yeah.
And get no return on it.
Or better yet, when they did screw it up and they figured out how to do it the right way, it's more powerful information.
Yeah.
And Ben has introduced me to people I didn't even know existed through his writings. And I've gone back. I've gone on eBay. I've gone online. I mean, he suggested in one of the newsletters, I order newsletters from a company that stopped printing them in the 50s. And I bought something like 150 newsletters from this guy that are amazing. I mean, they've given me a lot of ideas on how to write copy. 50s. Yeah, I show him. I got him in my office. I show him to you.
That's crazy.
So the other thing I like about him is he's got a strong enough personality that even though everybody else is saying do this, he'll be like, no, don't do that. Here's what you really need to do, and get out of the mainstream. You know what I mean? And actually give you the truth.
Yeah.
Like that isn't the way to do it. Like calling Facebook Flakebook.
Yeah.
How many people are doing that? He's not on Facebook. He's not on Twitter. He calls it Twitter. You know what I mean? So stuff like that. And very often, I'll buy something from him and he'll over-deliver. Not always, but more often than not. It's not just like, oh, look what I got. And, like, for example, I was talking about his book, how I found this book it was in his newsletter. He didn't need to send me his book in one of his newsletters. You know what I mean? He could have charged me for it. Mm-hmm. But I bought it and read it like the same week, and it's like, holy cow. Then a couple months later, he sent the second edition, right? So I think it's amazing he does that. Probably more important than anything, he practices what he preaches. When he's talking about these things, you see them in his products and his materials and his books. He practices what he preaches. Mostly if you're on his email list, you'll hear his stories because he's just telling you stories. It's amazing some of the things that he's been through, right? And the last thing, or the last couple of things, and we'll get out of here, is he's reachable. I can't believe that I actually reached out to him and it was not difficult to get a hold of him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's not somebody that's going to be clingy to you or anything like that. He just like answers my emails and very nonchalant and very to the point. But he's reachable. He's not some god in the heavens that you can't talk to and there's no phone line or no email or anything that gets to him, and 13 assistants before you get to Ben.
Not arrogant.
Yeah, he's not arrogant at all, right? And lastly, like you said, I just think he's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
I like him, and I'm honored. I personally, Bill Hawthorne, am honored that he said yes to come on our podcast. As Emma was teasing me, I'm one of his fanboys. That's what he calls him in his
Remember
email.
this, Pete, you're not going to believe this. I talked to Ben Settle. He's going to come on the show. Like, oh my God. Yeah, you're happy about it.
I'm definitely his fanboy.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's earned the altitude.
Yeah.
He's not on a pedestal.
Yeah.
But he's earned the altitude.
Yeah, his advice is worth heeding. And even though he talks a lot about copywriting and all that stuff, I will tell you that his materials works for any business. So even if it's not real estate, it works for any business, and you will enhance your life by applying what he talks about. So that's it. Episode 150 is over. We've officially and authentically interviewed and talked to Mr. Ben Settle, one of my heroes, I guess. Which is something.
He's not the villain, Bill.
He's not the villain, and that's something that I'm very proud of and glad that we have put into the time machine.
And we'll have to have him back for the second half.
Yeah, he said he would do that. Actually, he has a guy that he told us about. You heard him say it. That is a wholesaler, does real estate, and he was saying that he could get the three of us together, and he would love to do that. So we'll do a show with that.
That'll be a third show.
It'll be another one, yeah.
All right.
So, with that said, till the next episode, we are over and out.
And off
Thanks
to
for
celebrate
listening.
150.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.